All right. So welcome to Designing VR Capture Strategies. I'm Laura Vitaro from the Virtual Reality Summit, one of your co-hosts today, and I'm happy you could all make it. We have some really exciting and great panelists here today, so we're in for an interesting hour ahead of us. Today's webinar is a preview of the excellent presentations and world-class presenters we have lined up for you at the Virtual Reality Summit San Diego event on December 14 to 15. And if you stay tuned, we'll be offering a discount to that event as well as the VR AR Association San Francisco chapter event at the end of the presentation. Just move to the next slide.
What slide are we on?
I think we're on the main one now. We can move to the hosts. Or Casey, you can walk us through the agenda if you'd like.
Cool. So everyone, it is great to be here. My name is Casey Sapp. I'm going to be moderating this event. The attendees that I've seen on this list are from all over the world, actually. So we are going to hopefully have a little bit of a conversation at the end, answer some questions, and what we wanted to just do today is just have a knowledge dump of some of our experience and projects that we're working on that have been on the more complex side. So today is really about how do you manage complexity. You have consumer cameras, you have professional VR cameras like the Jaunt or the Ozo or the Jump, and then you have cinema grade cameras. And the question is, how vision on that's best for you. If you guys would just go on mute if you're not talking, that would be great. So what I'm going to do is my friend and my colleague Matt, as well as my friend Adam Snell, we're going to talk about some of our experiences, and we wanted to just, get down to actual facts and statistics and case studies that you may find interesting as you start to plan storylines or have bigger projects in the future. So with that, I think I will pass it to Adam and do a quick intro, and then Matt, and I'll come back to myself.
Thanks, Casey, and thanks to the hosts. Excited to speak today to all of you. I am a virtual reality director. I've spent the last 2 years founding River Studios with a number of talented individuals, and before that I was doing commercial storytelling, and so it definitely translated well to VR. And I have, kind of a student of end-to-end VR production, and excited to tell you a little bit about the project that we worked on with the Sacramento Kings.
Great, and I'll jump in. This is Matt DeJohn from VRTUL. My background comes from stereoscopic cinema and commercials. I've worked at a company called In3, then Digital Domain, and most recently Legend 3D, where I was a stereoscopic supervisor on a variety of films and commercials. Most recently, Poltergeist, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. So that's kind of my background, very stereocentric and 2D to 3D conversion centric. So heavy on the post-production workflow. But I have been involved with kind of on-set supervision and production as well, kind of throughout my career. Over the last year and a half or so, I've gotten involved in VR, and that started from the post side of things, dealing with stitching and dealing with conversion for virtual reality. And then within the last year or so, we've been moving more heavily into full production. I joined up with Casey to be part of the VRTUL team, and that's basically where we're handling end-to-end production, and you'll hear about one of those projects later on in the presentation. But we're really concentrating on trying to provide highest quality result we can given the particular needs of the client and the environment we're shooting. Capturing stereoscopic 360 and taking that all the way through post-production. So that's a little background for me, in case you all
Right, so and with his expertise and background, we have really jumped into managing high-end VR production pipeline. The making, and what we've realized is that there are many different types of cameras in the market, and how do you choose the right one? And that was what we wanted to discuss today, is that what the question is, what is the perfect camera for a shoot? And we wanted to provide, ask you that question and kind of work with you through our experience of actual case studies. And, is the perfect camera an Ozo, a Jaunt, an Omni, a Jump, or something more custom? And we've realized is that we actually have to create a lot of different cameras. The pre-production of the client and what their goals are. And so, with that, I guess how do you choose the perfect rig for your shoot? And there are guys like Marcus Johannes, which are putting together, for example, this A7 rig, and with a Tetra mic on it, and Teradek is involved for live streaming, and it's a perfect camera for low light. But is it also perfect for what's happening on the right with this Blue Diamond 360 video, which if you pull it up in YouTube, you'll see that they used 4 camera systems. They use an Ozo, an Abyss, a GoPro, and a Kodak setup. And so what we wanted to talk with you about is how, go through some of these different cameras, what we're seeing, how we use them, and then what we chose for our case studies and for our actual projects. So the question is, in a complex shoot, what if your client wants low light capability, full 360 stereo, 8 to 10K resolution? These are all things that we're seeing more and more in the market. Underwater stereo, drone and stereo, multiple hours of capture, live streaming, and then sometimes even a limited budget. And so the question is, what camera do you choose? And so that's what I wanted to propose to these guys today is, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of each of these cameras? How do you make a decision on what's best? And so, with that, Adam, tell me a little bit more about these cameras that you're seeing. What do you like about them? What do you not like about them in general? When would you use some of these?
Well, Casey, you definitely, I definitely agree that it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I like to call it the quiver approach. And so this slide has a pretty wide quiver. I have been trained up and authorized to use the new Google Jump camera, and that is something that really has surprised me because they take a lot of the post-production out of it by offering cloud stitching. We actually built a Red Dragon rig, but it was not a stereo one, so I think that would fit more into the cinematic capture. And then the Ozo has some limitations, but then some benefits as well. We use a lot of GoPros. Really, all the cameras on these slides are things that we would consider every project. And so I think this is a good list. The one that I would add is that we've done some tests using the Sony low light cameras. I think the A7S rig is made up of them. I think that's a great low light solution, but yeah, again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Matt, give me a quick pro and con of each of these cameras. What do you like about them? What do you not like about them?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the Jump rig, our colleague definitely said it. It does make the post-production process much easier. and you get a result just by sending it up to the cloud, letting cloud crunch on the images and send you back a result. Now, that being said, we've run into some situations where kind of real-world capture scenarios and limitations, whether that be just the reality that if you have tiles on, in a bathroom, or if you have a fairly confined space where an actor does have to pass closer than the recommended distance, or certain speed of the characters, there are some areas where that automatic stitching will fail to a certain degree. Now, it's not like it fails and the whole image completely falls apart. Generally, what you would see is some warping or distortion around the edges of the characters. In the most extreme case I saw, the image was totally unusable, and so that area had to be restitched. And it was a particularly difficult area for the algorithm to solve because it was people in front of kind of a tiled bathroom wall. So it was a repeating pattern. That's, as far as Jump's recommendations and shooting guidelines, that's kind of one of the things that they point out as a potential issue. So pros are great workflow, much more simple than having to stitch every shot yourself, although there is some complexity to the post-production process if you want to kind of take the footage to that final, 20%. Additionally, one con is out of the box, there is no nadir or zenith coverage. So you either have to have a witness camera or just do a kind of a paint fix to resolve that, or patch on the nadir and the zenith for branding or whatnot. So that's one drawback with that rig. Also, the portability is somewhat of an issue because you have to carry along a large battery unit that sits below the camera. In terms of the upper middle rig, we've shot with that one quite a bit. Pros are that it's very portable. It can produce a good stereo result. The cons are the post-production process is fairly difficult to get kind of a perfect looking stereo result. So generally you will need compositors who are experienced in stereo to kind of help through that final stitching process, either utilizing color and auto panel plus After Effects or a Nuke and Cara kind of workflow. Cons to that rig beyond just the post workflow are really just cons with any GoPro rig. The potential overheating issues, the limited manual controls, and the fact that there's no true gen lock in this particular rig. Upper right system, the kind of stereo red Dragon array, you get very high quality, but your stitch is very difficult because there's just a very large parallax between each pair of cameras. Lower left rig, pros to that are relatively easy stitch. In that same category of this modified GoPro system with 180 plus lenses, I would put your Kodak SB360s into that same kind of category. So ease of stitching is a pro there. Con there is somewhat limited resolution, and also you're unwarping that limited resolution, so you're getting some softening. Then just kind of speed through the last two here in terms of the OZO. Low light capabilities are a big issue, and then the fact that you only get 2D on the rear. That's kind of a big negative for that particular system. Pros to it are fairly good post-production workflow, although similar to the Jump, it does require some additional refinement in many cases, and it does come with onboard spatial audio, which is also great. Then lower right, the jaunt rig. Pros to that are very good, high quality, gen lock between all the cameras. There's a cloud stitching solution that's fairly robust, similar to the Jump, and it does have full 360 by 180 coverage, so you don't have the same nadir and zenith issues as you would with the Jump, although you still have to paint out the tripod. So that's my run through those last two cameras.
Thanks, Matt. And the point is that there are still a lot of places that these cameras can't go. And so the future of, I think, 360 capture is, you know, how do you get a camera into a scenario maybe that's wet, that maybe is, you know, with a gorilla who has thumbs, that, you know, you have to make very, very custom setups right now because no camera solves every problem for the shot that you're looking to get close, you know, going into a volcano, so on and so forth. So I guess the point is, you know, we really encourage looking and helping and being involved in collaborating on camera design, and we want to see these cameras go everywhere. And so some of those best practices that we're seeing, that Adam's seen, that Matt's seen, that I'm seeing, is utilizing live streaming tools, you know, decrease camera size whenever possible, make sure that you include space for audio and a Tetra mic because it needs to be on the camera. Whenever possible, we're starting to see that the Omni is getting taken apart and used for other custom setup rigs. We saw it with some fisheye lenses the other day that someone had pulled it apart and is getting some pretty good stereo frame sync. It's a good size, good quality, good stitch. And then if you want to build a stereo rig, there are a lot of reasons to look up, down, behind, and you don't want that to be in 2D. So, you know, we really encourage that if you're going to build a stereo rig, make sure it's a full 360. So with that, I think we just want to dive into, you know, with Adam for about 10 minutes each. You know, Adam, why did you choose the red rig? Tell us about your, you know, after the relationship was built, once you got into pre-production, let's just kind of talk about some of those design choices and how that came out.
Great, thank you, Casey, and excited to tell you about this project that moved very quickly. I think that's a theme with making VR for people who haven't engaged with VR yet, is that it's, no matter how much you try to convey to the client how much more involved a VR project is, people tend to want to move at the same speed as a normal video shoot. I'm sure there's a lot of people on the call that would have experienced this, where clients, when we engage with them, it's kind of an educational process. And so it's kind of our approach is just to assume that part of our job is to sophisticate the client's understanding of VR and the limitations. And it all kind of starts with the camera selection. So jump right into our pre-production for the Sacramento Kings. Basically, we had engaged with them for a while, and they are building one of the most technological stadiums around, and so they were early adopters in this area, and so they wanted to do something with VR, and so they were really receptive to learning about the new medium, which is really a great thing to have in a client. So I remember jumping on a call with their creative director, and they were looking to announce their jerseys during the NBA playoffs, which was a little bit of a controversy because they weren't in the playoffs, but they wanted to use it as a chance to present their new identity. So they had a lot of thoughts on how to do this with a photography shoot, and so we see one of the pictures at the top right. They were, you know, they had a really good plan for how to do this with photos, but they didn't really know how to do it with VR. So they gave us a lot of trust. They told us that there was 4 jerseys that they wanted to present. So on the creative call, I very much knew that we were able to to show our talent, who was their rookie center. It's kind of a dynamic and really great person to present the jerseys. And so I knew we wanted to show him in all 4 of the jerseys at the same time, because the goal was for people's fans for the Sacramento Kings fans to look around and see which ones they want to buy. So I had been on a shoot where we have been alongside another production, whether it be a photography production or a 2D video production. I've been a little bit frustrated by studios are not built for 360 shooting, and I'm a little bit of a snob about presenting our subject matter in a really crisp and clean way. And so this was a very, basically the more we could isolate the jerseys, the better. So we used the studio that was set up for a 2-dimensional shoot, so you have a seamless backdrop that's basically 2 walls and a corner, and I've been thinking a lot about how to maximize that type of space. So all of that leading up to what cameras do we want to use. For this project, we actually used a Red Dragon, which we've done a lot of shooting with, and we mixed it with a pretty self-contained GoPro rig. And we had done that before on other productions, but the first decision we had to make was, do we want to do this mono or stereo? I think that Casey and the guys at VRTUL are a little bit better with stereo, so I would be curious to see what this would have looked like in stereo, but I tend to go with mono, especially early in people's learning about VR. I think that mono, when done well, has an ability to get a higher image quality. So we went with a mono approach where we wanted to do a shot that showed all 4 of our talent in the same shot and making it feel like a 360 space. And then we also use the GoPros more as our kind of action camera that is capturing things as we go, that you know, it's gonna be more of a behind the scenes feel, because we're not shooting one camera at a time. So the Red Dragon camera, since our subject is about 7 feet tall, we really wanted to have the feeling that you were to feel his height. I think that was one creative goal, because you don't have a lot of chances to put on a headset and really feel what a 7-foot tall person is like. And so we definitely went with a 1 camera on a nodal point rig, so that it eliminated all of the parallax error, which allowed us to get closer to our talent, whose name is Willie Cauley-Stein, and that was one of our goals. So when we were selecting the camera, we had the ability to shoot 4 reds in that shoot, but we really wanted to minimize that parallax error so we could get closer to the camera and really heighten that intimate feel that you're standing in a room with just this 7-foot tall person all around you. So we mixed the GoPros and the Red Dragon. What was really exciting is that Willie Cauley was a really good person for this, because he is into fashion, he's into technology, so you see a picture here where we actually got to show him what virtual reality looks like. So we definitely saw that as an opportunity to engage our brand. And then they had a great plan for a press release and in-store installation where people could use the experience. So we were really excited by that. It was a very quick turnaround because there was a really good opportunity to join the Sacramento Kings press release. So it definitely was to our advantage to turn it around quickly, but It was definitely a hard press to deliver 10 days after we shot it. So a couple of things on this slide. We have our nodal point, so that allowed us to get really close to our subject, but it also allowed us to shoot directionally. So we shot our client or our talent 4 times into the same corner, and then we stitched it in AutoPano to make it feel like he was all around the camera. What I really like about the nodal point is that a lot of problems with image quality, I'm convinced, are bad lighting because we're shooting in all directions. It's really hard to do practical lighting well. So when you shoot with one camera at a time, we lit him, we were able to use directional lighting. One little thing that when you watch the piece you might not notice is that when we shot at a very high frame rate. I think that's why we wanted to use the Dragon, and we shot at a really high resolution and frame rate, which allowed us to, before we stitched the scenes together, had the editor work with me on a speed ramp to basically take small movements that our talent was making with the basketball, slowing them down, making them more dramatic and cinematic. And then some of the post-production, we were rotoscoping. We did a roof replacement, so we shot in 4 separate scenes with the different jerseys, and then we were able to stitch them together and then replace the roof with a roof shot that we got from a plate shot. The things that I would have done a little bit different, I've done a fashion piece before in a studio, and I used not the wide lens that, forget what company, Izuger. I would have used a rig that had maybe 7 GoPros or 6 GoPros in the stock lenses so that we would get a little less distorted. It does make the stitching harder, but since there wasn't too much movement, I think that would have improved the project. And then a lot of what I talk about is technical will inform your creative, and creative will inform your technical. And so this was a really great project where we wanted to achieve certain things and then used some of our understanding about the technical limitations on how to present it in the best way possible.
Adam, thanks. So tell us, I mean, why did you like nodal one more time? I mean, nodal is great for X.
So nodal is great when there's no continuity issues. So when you're able to shoot in one direction at a time, as a director, it's really incredible to be able to see what's happening in real time. There are live monitoring systems for 360 shooting, but it is really nice when there's no continuity issues to shoot one direction at a time. One of the pictures on the previous slide is I was able to grab the basketball and in a very I'm horrible at basketball, but was able to show the talent what it looks like to see what he's going to look like. So it's really nice just for the ability to direct one scene at a time, and then the ability to have no parallax error, so the stitching snaps together really easily because it's on the nodal point, and allowed us to get closer.
So yeah, and that's another point. I think we really enjoy nodal as well because of how fast the turnaround time can be and how low the post-production is. And so when a client comes to us and they say we have little to no budget, we try to go for nodal as often as we can. And that's where we like to push them. But obviously it has its pros and its cons. So for us, and I think this is interesting from a production studio perspective, we did some vision casting. for SeaWorld and explained to them what the future of VR will look like. And they said, prove to us this is compelling. And so unfortunately, we're not able to show publicly any of the work that we did. That there's a lot of work that we've only been able to use as internal marketing pieces and, share with, friends and other clients, but it was never posted publicly. But through a sizzle reel, they wanted us to show what it's like getting close to animals and show what that intimate experience could be, whether that be tiger, cheetah, rhino, and all those different special case scenarios where your camera could get destroyed. So what we did, as you can see on the right, is we created two solutions which could be easily dismounted and thrown around, and we couldn't care less. And so we built these camera solutions with the GoPro hard cases in mind. And through that, they were blown away. They got to see what it's like being 2 feet in front of a cheetah, being right up next to the penguins. We went into a number of, we worked with a number of different trainers and animals and exhibits to show what the future of, these kind of beyond the barrier experiences could be. And so with that, I think we had to design, we pitched them that everything was better in stereo, the future is stereo. We still feel like that's true today, even more so. And so we designed a couple first of its kind camera systems, as you can see here, for weatherproofing, for being underwater, and have since used those in future shoots and some of our other clients. Matt, would you talk a little bit about how Post was unique for this project?
Sure, yeah. Let's see, Post was somewhat unique for this project, but also similar to a lot of our other productions. I mean, the most unique characteristic of it was the stereoscopic components. That's the most complex portion of it. In terms of dealing with the 14 camera dry GoPro rig, that was a fairly standard stereoscopic stitching workflow where we utilize AutoPano color to get our initial solve, and then we brought the results of that into After Effects for refining those scenes to be just perfect, addressing any other stereoscopic alignment issues or color balance issues. So as a broad overview, that's the workflow. Using color to get the initial stitch, using After Effects to refine it. And then more recently, we've moved over to using Nuke to handle our stitch refinement. And really utilizing Nuke plus Cara allows us to kind of take care of a base level of stitching issues in a more procedural fashion. There's still some manual manipulation that needs to happen, but it takes away one level of fixes that we generally would have to do manually in After Effects. But yeah, the other complex factor with the SeaWorld stuff is the underwater camera capture. That was a multi-camera array. In that first particular instance, we were using a 23 camera array to get stereoscopic underwater, and now our kind of full production ready version of the camera is a 30 camera system. So that's obviously a lot of data to deal with, a lot of stitching to deal with in terms of managing all those scenes and getting a seamless result.
So yeah, so what we realized, and what we would like to really express to you guys is that good stereo we see in the market, not just us but everyone, good stereo exceeds clients' expectations every time. And so if you can do it, if you can't do good stereo, then Adam's approach is as good as it gets, and sometimes exceeds most stereo shoots. But good quality stereo is the future of 360 video, and a lot of folks believe that, such as Ozo and Jump and Jaunt. And we, as we've learned from this shoot, working with GoPros, that we bring PAs on set and do data dumps every couple hours in order to get the dailies within 12 to 24 hours instead of 7 to 10 days. And so that's something that most clients, especially when they're paying a lot of money, they ask for, is they want to see the footage on set, at the time of capture. And when you're using GoPros, you really don't get that opportunity, and so it means more manpower, bringing more render boxes on set, and essentially setting up workstations, in a room nearby. And so through that workflow, we've been able to get some good quality feedback and see what we can do on the second day and third day of the shoot. Whereas, 3-6 months ago, we would just grab stuff, take it home a week later, and do all the dailies at once. That's a really big downside for GoPros. So, lastly, and this is where we wanted to close up, if you have any other questions, you can certainly, I'm going to go to the end, you can certainly reach out to, myself, Matt, Adam, learn more about these projects. If you have any type of questions around how to set up a shoot correctly, we really believe that, a rising tide raises all ships. We really believe that, collaborating and working together and putting the best teams together is best for everybody, because good VR is good for the community. And so with that, I think what we really wanted to make sure that you understood, if you are out there producing footage, is in a fast-changing market, how do you future-proof? And so with that, I want to turn it back to Matt and Adam. What would you guys do if you were planning for a shoot 3 months from now? What are some of those things in production and post-production that make sure that you are staying ahead of the times? So Adam, how about you go first?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would start beating the drum about getting our creative plan in place so that we can do a pretty involved pre-production. Because there's such limitations with capture, I would probably want to build something custom. I tend to like shooting at a high frame rate, so there are 360 videos on our computers we can watch through Facebook or YouTube, but I'm really trying to push people toward more immersive ways of watching with a headset. And in the headset, you can really tell there's ghosting in a basically kind of shuttering of people in the headset, and so I like to shoot at a high frame rate, the highest resolution that I can shoot, and that's another reason why we like the Red Dragon camera. But I would try to basically get people to come up with what they want to accomplish, and then right away decide, do I want to do this in mono, do I want to do this in stereo, and then probably try to build a custom rig for the shoot that utilizes high frame rate, high resolution, and I think your point about if you're going to go stereo in all directions, I think that's very important. That's something that disappoints me about some of the push-button stereo solutions like Jump and Ozo. But yeah, I would very much just try to get pre-production going as soon as possible and then design a capture system that's custom.
That's awesome. Matt, tell me about, in post-production, being a post-production expert, having done this for 10 years, on feature films and stuff, how do you stay ahead of the times in post-production and future-proof yourself?
Just general data management practices, keeping all of your source files, keeping all your project files so you can rebuild as needed if you need to modify a particular shot. But then also once you kind of hit your final render, making sure you are rendering to an archival kind of format, whether that's CPX frames or ProRes. So you have all your individual shots in that format, then it's conformed, export a encoded final file. You don't want to be stuck at the end of the day where your encoded final file is really all that you have for those individual shots. Or let's say you have to go back and actually re-render out of Nuke or After Effects or whatnot. That's a big, that's a lot of overhead. So better to render out the high resolution, keep that file on archive so you can always go back to it. And then ideally, you know, right now obviously the standard is working to a 4K resolution, but it's better to work to a higher resolution if you can, 6K or 8K, because that's where the future is going, and that's what headsets will ultimately need, is that extra resolution to get that heightened experience in the headset. Just, we need those headsets to catch up, but they will eventually.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So I think, you know, what we would say is the future of 360, you know, immersive video capture is high frame rate, extremely high resolution. I mean, we're talking greater than 6K, if not greater than 10K. And then, you know, in 12 months, if you look at, you know, the companies that are doing volumetric capture, McKinnis Scott, or right now it's a little bit more mocap focused. But if you look at, you know, Litro and some of the work that, you know, photogrammetry, some of the companies that are in that, that is really the future of where I think 360 production companies are going to go. Is as soon as this tech is available, they're going to jump on it, and I think that's what clients want as well. As 360 videos aren't going to be around forever, they will, but what I would just encourage you as a production company is to future-proof yourself. You know, get in the stereo, get in the high-end cinematic cameras, but also familiarize yourself with what volumetric capture is and can be in the future. So there is a question, and this is where I'm going to, we'll do one question and then we'll close it up, Laura. And there was a question around, let me see, let me make sure I get this right. Experience with interactive VR videos, traveling to other locations, selecting elements in a 360 video to change the experience. Have you guys ever seen anything, Adam, have you ever seen a good 360 interactive experience where you can, through gaze base or selection, that drew you in to do more of that?
Good question. I'm a little bit, I like to make it clear that I think all 360 videos are interactive. The fact that you can decide where to look, I think, is interactive and different from a normal video. But we've done some work where there's one piece where the HTC Vive is something that you can build interactive experiences, and you know, it keeps track of what you're doing within a 10-foot by 10-foot room. So we did a couple of things at River Studios. One where we did mixed reality, where we shot the person in the headset against a green screen. I haven't seen a lot of there is what I think our question is driving at. There is an ability to go from basically a choose your own adventure, and I've seen some really good 360 videos. There's one with a drone over Canada where you can decide, I want to go see the whales or I want to go see the seals. That was one example that I really liked, where you could choose what scene you went to next, which I thought was more interactive than just looking around.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good. So, and then one more question while we have everyone on. You know, today, October 18th, what is the best camera at a reasonable price for streaming 360 footage? And you know, I'll pose that to you guys, what you think. What I think is that using the A7's dark corner rig with the Teradek Sphere is a great solution. It only gets a 1080 stream, but you know, the question is, where are you going to distribute it? Are you going to distribute it on YouTube, or are you going to put it into a mobile app, or are you going to do it at a very high level like NextVR? And if the key word is reasonable price, then you know, a Teradek Sphere is essentially a camera agnostic decoder solution. And I've seen the Aura, and it still hasn't hit the market from what I can tell. Would you guys add anything as a good live streaming 360 solution? And I will actually add, I was at VR on the lot last week, and I was really impressed by the Ozo. They're just getting their broadcast solution up. So it's so new, it didn't even hit me. But that's one I would also add. Would you guys add any others?
I wouldn't. I mean, I think the Teradek seems good to me. Casey, remind me if I'm wrong, though. There was one that Dr. Ortiz was using. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I guess we'll follow up with the person who asked the question.
Okay.
But I think the point is that the live streaming market is changing fast, and if you're not doing something today, then definitely you know, make that decision when the event happens, because it seems like something gets released every week, every month in that area. So. So with that, Laura, do you want to close us up on the Virtual Reality Summit and some of the registration options?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I meant to. So this event is co-hosted by the Virtual Reality Summit and VR/AR Association. The VR Summit is a new global conference series that focuses on branded experiences and leveraging VR and AR innovation for business success. We'll be heading to San Diego on December 14th to 15th, which I did mention, where some of today's speakers will be actually speaking. So if you're interested in learning more, visit virtualrealitysummit.com. So I have this slide for special offers. You can use the code DESIGNINGVR when you register for 15% off of Platinum, Gold, or 2-day passes to VR Summit in San Diego. So all of you in California or who are willing to travel, definitely check that out. It'll be a great event. And then we're also, this webinar is hosted by the VR/AR Association, who are running an event tomorrow in San Francisco, a chapter event for drinks and discussions. It should be really great. You can check out their website, thevrara.com/events for more information. And you can use the code VRSComp for complimentary registration. So you'll be able to attend that free to continue your learning.
Thanks. So that was it. We hope that you learned something. If you grabbed one thing and you can take it into one of your productions, then this was a total win. Once again, you know, we're just interested to hear your ideas, interact with you. This is Adam, Matt, and I's email, and we're looking forward to seeing you hopefully at the event. And so with that, we'll finish it up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Casey, Matt, and Adam. And we'll also be sending the recording. I know a few of you have asked in the chat box, so that will be sent to you guys via email.
Awesome. Take care, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.